Perfect. Okay, so so I'll just pull up the participants here. That's us. And then, yeah, I'll open up the Q&A. Yeah, it was good to actually say, because, well, yeah, you got my call kind of thing. So I had actually sent that out to everybody kind of, because I was like, not everybody's going to just see it online, right? So I thought, why not do it that way? But then the nice part is you know, I send it on YouTube anyway. So then that way we can go. So just, yeah, so before everybody joins us, it probably won't be a whole lot at this hour, but
that's okay.
that is okay. That's okay.
So,
but you know,
I had to laugh when it called, because it popped up that it was you calling me. And then I answered it and I'm like, hey, Gail. And you started talking and I was listening for a little bit. And it took me a good 10 to 12 seconds before I realized that it was a recording calling me and not you. So
that's awesome. But you know what? That's how I can get it out to everybody all at once. Because how else do you? Because everybody pays attention to emails or social media throughout the day, right? So I thought let's do a big blast. So perfect. I'm glad you could join us too. So that worked out beautifully. Yeah. This could be a whole different day. Alrighty. Okay. So thank you again. I know it's so impromptu kind of thing, but I love it. I'm like, I have a question. I email you, and then I'm like, oh, I got another one. Oh God, I've got another one. And then now here we are, right? So
absolutely.
All right. So I figured actually the latest one that I was talking to you about was about a poor girl who is stuck overseas kind of thing. So she had actually gone for, I think what I said was Portugal. I think she went for like a family vacation, was supposed to come back, flights got canceled. So she's now there until May.
Right.
So we're like, does she qualify?
Right. And they're all, it's funny, right? Because as you go through it, it's clear, but it's not clear. Right. And I think that's why a lot of these questions pop up. So the key to really being able to qualify for it is you've got to have 14 consecutive days where you were unable to work, earn no income as a direct result of COVID-19, right? So in that situation, I would say, well, you know, was she able to work? No, she's stranded in Portugal. Has it been 14 consecutive days? I would say at this point, the answer is yes, right? And is it a direct result of COVID-19, right? Yeah, right. That's why the flights are canceled. So absolutely, I would say she should definitely apply and shouldn't have a whole lot of difficulty. So
here was the interesting part. She's like, I don't have access to my tax stuff.
Right.
I think when you apply online, you need like, what is it? I'm not sure. Is it your line 150?
It depends. So if she already had access to her CRMI account, she should be able to get into it from there. If not, and she was setting it up for the first time, then she would need some of her tax information.
Right. And that's where I was like, hopefully you work with an accountant something to get that and didn't go to H&R Block, right? Or did it yourself? Because then how are you going to get it?
Yeah. Hopefully somebody's at home that has access to your computer.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, then we're going to throw another wrench into that. She's just come back off of mat leave.
Okay.
In January.
Right.
So she doesn't even have $5,000 in income earned.
Interesting. So
she said hours, so she might have misunderstood. So I think it's not to do with hours. It's to do with 5,000 minimum income, correct?
Correct. Yeah, it's not hours, it's income. So as long as she's hit that threshold, they have indicated that they'll look on things on a case-by-case basis. So, and then we had spoke briefly about today's announcement. So one of the big concerns on that is maybe not so much maternity, but people who are coming back from or who are on EI claims, and those claims exhaust, and now as a result of the exhausted claim, right, they're not eligible for EI because their period has run out, but they can't find a job because nobody's hiring, right? Or they're in an industry that for whatever reason they can't. Those people now are going to be eligible to claim the CERB. So they added that as one of the expansions to the program today.
Okay, so that was it. Now, one of the, I think because I misquoted this morning on the video, and thank you for letting me know. Somehow I read, I don't even know where, it might have even been one of the infos I shared the other day. For the 2,000, I thought 10% was withheld, but you're saying no.
No, so it is taxable income. And there's a lot of stuff floating around on social media warning people to make sure that they're putting the money aside, so it sounds like it won't be pensionable or insurable earnings, so people won't owe CPP or employment insurance on it. It will get added
Okay.
to taxable income.
Okay.
So depending on what marginal tax bracket you're at
Right.
the end of the year, you're likely paying anywhere from 20 to 50% on it.
Okay. Okay. So that makes sense. Okay. So how about for now, is everybody standard getting it for the 4 months?
Sorry?
Or like, is everybody getting it for the 4 months, or is it that, like, say you get it today, but say you do go back to work, let's say in June, does it stop or is it continuing? What's happening?
No, it'll stop. So there are
It will.
continuous
Okay.
eligibility periods in
Okay.
4-week blocks. So, and it sounds like, and initially it sounded like you might have to reapply. It sounds
Okay.
now like you might actually have to opt out. So once you qualify,
Okay.
you'll automatically qualify for the next period unless you opt yourself out, is what it sounds like they're going to do. So
Okay. So that makes, okay. So it's the
yeah,
onus is on you. Because really, at the end of the day, if you go back to work in June and don't opt out, you're going to end up just repaying it back next year. Yes?
correct. Yeah.
Because they're going to know. Yeah.
Yep. And that was one of the goals of, and now we're slowly tiptoeing off into another direction, but that was one of the goals of enhancing the wage subsidy.
Okay.
Is that they're trying to get people off of CERB and into that. So although
Okay.
the wage subsidy might cost the government a little bit more in the long run, I think the hope
Okay.
is that the productivity and other taxes that flow as a result will be better. And it's better for the economy, right? It's better for how people working than not.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. Right. Okay.
Yep.
One of the questions in regards to this, so it's kind of tied into the EI and then the CERB that we were talking about. So I was a client had emailed, her husband had been laid off in March, applied for the EI, and he does he's been completing the EI reports, and he gets his $500 every week.
Yep.
Since he's been off, but now he's also receiving the $2,000 a month payment. So he's in essence like double dipping, for lack of a better word. But they didn't apply for it, but they're just getting it.
Right. So there's a possibility that his EI eligibility period started before the other. So it's entirely possible that he had EI for a week or two to start. And then once that the period for the CERB benefit kicked in, they automatically flipped him from one to the other, which they said they would do. So they said for people who had applied for employment insurance, where the CERB program was more beneficial, they would push them into that one. So I would expect that's what's happened, is he probably had a week or two of the EI entitlement before the CERB entitlement kicked in.
Okay.
If not, the other thing too is that there are some timing gaps. So there were some people who got double paid the CERB when it first came out. So they got back-to-back $2,000 deposits. And what was said was that was because of the way it worked, a lot of those payments came out at the tail end of the first eligibility period. So the first eligibility period actually expired, I think, last Friday. So we're into the second eligibility period now. So some people got their first payment at the tail end of the first and their second payment at the start of the second.
Oh, gotcha.
And all the correspondence that came into the government was telling people to make sure you budget, because the next one isn't going to come for probably 5 or 6 weeks at this point.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be like a standard 4 week. It's okay.
Right. So.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. All right. And had a gentleman, client emailed me on through Facebook actually.
Okay.
We just answered the question about reapplying. So it's going to be more of the opt out. And then when the 4 weeks or the month period started from March 15th or from the first day of the layoff, which is my case, March 23rd.
Okay. So in his case, if he was relieved of employment on the 23rd of March,
yep,
he would have the 14 consecutive days of no income in period 1. So he would actually end up in that situation getting the CERB for the first period. So in spite of the fact that he did have some earnings in there, he should still be entitled to the full $2,000 because that period is the one he got laid off on. So they've changed the language a little bit on it.
Oh, okay. I'm getting you now. Okay, I gotcha.
So in the initial period you qualify for, you have to have 14 consecutive days.
Yes.
All the subsequent periods, originally they said you can't work. Now they're actually, and this goes back to today's announcement. So they've said now today you can earn $1,000 a week, or $1,000 a month, and still be entitled to the CERB. So one of the concerns originally was for people who had like 2 or 3 part-time jobs, if 2 of the jobs laid them off, but the third one didn't, you could end up in a situation where somebody's income might drop from $1,000 a week to $50, and now they
Right.
suddenly can't qualify for the CERB because of that one last job. So they've now said that you can earn $1,000 a month and still maintain your CERB eligibility. So
Perfect. We talked about that last time. We were talking about with the waitress, right? This kind
yep.
of thing. So yeah, if they've got the different jobs, awesome. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. And nope, that's client looking by house. So we're okay. So no, it wasn't related to this. So
I
we're
can't
okay.
help with that. That's outside my wheelhouse.
That's me. That's me. Exactly. But actually, what it comes down to is some clients are asking, can they still apply for a mortgage while receiving the benefits? And unfortunately, we can't, right? It can't be any layoffs. It has to be active employment.
Yep.
I think that's our big thing. Now, I think I'd emailed you this morning. I'd emailed you 2 questions as well. So let me pull those up.
Yeah.
And one of them was, the gentleman was, if I have a grocery store and
Yep.
sales is only 20% of what I get, and the risk of getting COVID is just not worth it, as I don't want to infect my whole family. If I decide to close, am I eligible?
Right. And those are the ones that get into more of the it depends. So
Right.
you often, when you approach these, you almost end up in a bit of a decision matrix. So the first big part to that would be, are you incorporated or not, right? So if the business is incorporated versus unincorporated, that I would expect would probably push it one direction or the other.
Yeah.
So if he was incorporated, right, you could shut the incorporation down and then he's forced to not work.
Yeah.
That would be part one of it, because you can't elect not to work. That's kind of where the hiccup is if you voluntarily choose not to work, you might not be eligible for the CERB.
Yeah.
But again, if his sales are down that far, right, you can almost get to the point like, do your costs exceed the revenue you're making, and you're losing more money than you're making. So I would think if he has the documentation to back up, he would likely be okay. But in that sort of case, I'd be advising people to make sure you got a pretty strong case as to why you made the decision you did. So
for sure, right? Absolutely.
Ask, right?
Yep, absolutely. Which is funny because actually I think the next client was, are essential businesses allowed to close as we are not even making close to the 2,000 a month kind of thing? And then are they eligible? But I think that's going to be kind of tied to the same, right?
Well, and the other part of that too then is today's announcement, right? Being that so initially it was $0 of employment income or you couldn't get into it, right? So if you had $5 of income, you were out.
Yep.
Where today's announcement has opened up the ability to earn up to 1,000. Because there were a lot of people in what were deemed essential businesses. So chiropractors, for example, dentists, where they were instructed to close with the exception of medical emergencies. So some of those people were in positions where, their income fell dramatically, but they got to the end of the first eligibility period and all of a sudden the client had an emergency. And they were concerned about, do I want to go in and do $100 worth of work to lose my $2,000 eligibility for the period? So hopefully today's announcement works with that to alleviate some of
alleviated that a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Okay. And I think we just got an inquiry that just came through as well. Nope, they're going to check us out on YouTube later. So that's awesome. Okay.
Excellent.
See, there you go. And that's the beauty of, like we were saying, like it's an impromptu one, right? Like if anybody can join, awesome. And if you can't, then you know where to find us because we'll post that later as well.
Absolutely.
And then let's see if there's anything else. Nope, we're okay. So is there so from that announcement today, because like I said, I didn't even get to it. You did send me an email. I haven't had a chance to get to that either. When I put out that video this morning, and then a lot of people started contacting too, right? Which led to different conversations.
For sure.
Was there anything that I missed from that announcement or the email this morning that we should cover?
So that was the big one as it relates to the CERB, was just the enhanced eligibility. So seasonal workers are going to apply. People exhausting EI eligibility will be able to get on it. The ability to earn some income while still qualifying for the CERB. They spoke about some upcoming relief for students or the seasonal workers with the CERB. So that's an example of, if you worked for a roofer would be a good example where you're historically laid off for a period of time in the winter, and now you're getting into a period of time where you would be expecting to earn revenue. People like that who might not have been working are going to be eligible to apply for it so that they can get into it. So they have, certainly a lot of the feedback that people like me who sent them and that you can find online. It sounds like they've been listening to it.
That's awesome.
Still not, I think we're still waiting for a little bit more help for self-employed individuals, but it sounds like some of that stuff's in the pipeline. So.
And I think some of the stuff we were talking about earlier as well was pensions or seniors.
Yep.
Right. Like, so if they're on CPP or the old age security kind of thing, so they're still getting the same. There's no additional benefit to them.
Nothing as of yet. So.
Right. What's your gut on that? Do you think they'll do anything?
You can argue it both ways, right? So somebody like that who's on a fixed income is still getting the same fixed income they were getting before. So part of the argument is that
with no impact.
Yeah, they haven't seen a dramatic impact too. But if there's a lot of pensioners who it's especially in this region, it's difficult to survive on CPP and OAS, right? At your maximum entitlement, if you've got the most CPP you can get combined with the maximum OAS, you're looking at $19,500, $20,000 a year in income. So they're all most of them have supplemented it with investments, whether it's payments coming out of a registered income fund, whether it's unregistered investments where they're generating dividends and returns on gains and stuff like that. And those people, certainly there was some early consideration about reducing minimum RIF withdrawals.
Didn't they do that?
Yeah, well, yeah,
did they do that? Yes.
So that's a good. I mean, it's a good fix, and they've been calling on that for a while as people's life expectancy has increased. But that's not making up for the the people who are counting on investment returns that might not be there, right?
For sure.
We're not into earnings season yet, where we're going to start seeing what the impact is on businesses. But there are a handful of big public companies who have already indicated that dividends that are normally paid are either going to be reduced or eliminated in the short run as business tries to conserve cash and stay afloat. So, there might be a trailing effect to this that they see. So, I would expect we'll probably see something, but they weren't in the immediate group of people that they've offered an olive branch to.
Fair enough.
So.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll totally. I think that's what's happening though, right? I think as it kind of progresses and the more we go, we're starting to see the changes that are coming, right?
Yeah, and certainly, and I said this to a number of people. Writing legislation isn't fun at the best of times, right? And it's a pretty delicate process.
For sure.
And historically, you would have lots and lots of reviews of that to make sure you're not getting unintended consequences, which is easy enough to happen. And they just don't have the opportunity to go through the normal quality controls they do. So the Department of Finance only has so many people that can write legislation, and I would expect they're probably working overtime. So they're doing the best they can do. And
agreed.
I think they're trying to put out the biggest fires first, and once they get the bigger ones under control, then move to some of the smaller ones. So.
Right. And then it's fluid, right? It's just constantly changing as the need goes. Yep. Totally hear you. Well, that's awesome. If anybody has any questions, we can chat a little bit more, but I think this was just a short and sweet kind of impromptu. There was a few different scenarios coming up. We're like, hey, let's just do it.
Absolutely.
Because that's how we roll. Right. So there you go.
Sure is.
So no, this was awesome. But as things keep changing kind of thing, like maybe we continue to do this or we do, I don't know, just like some emails or some social media stuff. But I know we're too much for easy, right? We're at home offices right now. We just got to get freshened up and then we're good.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. As always, every time I reach out to you, you're always there to answer all my questions.
I try my best.
You do. I know. And you're awesome. Thank you.
Excellent.
And thanks to everyone that joined in. All righty. So enjoy the rest of your night.
You too. Take care.
Okay. All righty. I'll talk to you later.
Yep. Bye.
Okay. Bye.